A genius scientist has managed to figure out time travel, but unbeknownst to him, his boss wants to travel back to Jesus' time with some dangerous intentions. A man named Brant is heading to a new city with his wife and 2 daughters because he's been offered the job of head of security at a research facility. He talks to his wife about the fact that his last job was participating in missions where he was actually saving lives, but now he's just going to be head of security, which is not as heroic or meaningful. She comforts him that this job pays better, which makes it the best decision for their daughters. He'll be a hero to them. Suddenly, his wife starts crying, and she says that she has a feeling God is going to do something miraculous through him. He comforts her, but as he is distracted, their car meets an accident with a truck. Next, Brant wakes up lying on the road, and it is revealed that he is the only survivor of the accident. Maybe this is the miracle his wife was talking about. Elsewhere, a physics genius named Ram Goldstein finishes his test and runs into a girl named Amy Lee. Amy and Ram strike up a conversation, and Amy is impressed by his genius, so she agrees to go out with him. However, later at night, as she arrives in his basement where he lives, she learns that his genius does not extend into his social skills. Amy finds him adorable, so she has dinner with him regardless, and spends the night teaching him to dress better and be more confident. Elsewhere, Brant has become an alcoholic since the accident. As he misses his family, he considers taking his own life, but decides against it. He complains to God that he has lived by God's rules all his life, and this is how he is rewarded for it. He vows that he will no longer be a man of God. Next, Ram and Amy work on a highly coveted research project for creating the world's first matter transfer machine, along with 2 other young genius scientists, Simon and Felix. The research institute they work in is owned by Ahmed Akbar, a refugee turned millionaire. Ram is the leader of the research team, and the others complain that he doesn't let them catch a break. In a bid to get a break, Simon pulls out his chair and sits in the prototype machine, preventing Ram from testing out another algorithm. Ram warns him that if he runs the algorithm now and it works, they have no idea what will happen to Simon. Simon gets up, but leaves his chair in the machine. Ram tells him to move it, but an annoyed Simon refuses and tells him to transfer the chair if his algorithm is so good. Ram executes the experiment, and an explosion happens, causing them all to duck and take cover. After the explosion, Ahmed arrives and he seems pleased. It is revealed that while they were all taking cover, they missed the fact that the machine briefly worked. Ahmed is delighted and upgrades them to his main team, providing them a much nicer lab to work in. Next, it is revealed that the research facility Brant was going to work for is Ahmed's. As he arrives for work, Ahmed says that it's only been a few weeks since his family's death, and he can take more time off if he wants. But Brant says that the more time he spends thinking about his family, the angrier he gets at God. Ahmed says he understands, and he tells the story of how his own parents were murdered in front of him in his home country by radical Muslims for converting to Christianity. Ahmed allows Brant to work but doesn't let him take charge yet. He answers to a man named Sabir. Next, Amy and Ram are working, when Amy says that Ram needs to de-stress. The 2 hide behind a server to make out, because the rest of the room is visible to security officials through cameras. As they are making out, Ram notices that someone is using one of the servers to communicate on a secure line. How he figures that out by just looking at the server wires is obviously not important. He hacks the line and discovers that Ahmed is communicating with Rashad Amir, the leader of a radical Muslim terrorist organization. It is revealed that Rashad wants to use the matter transfer machine to transport bombs and conduct attacks. Ram says that they are being watched all time at this institute, so they have to act normal for the rest of the day, and he will call Homeland Security after he leaves. Next, Ram is running some tests, and he realizes that he's not accounting for the time parameter of when the transferred object will arrive in the other spot, and by doing so, he is essentially sending it to the past. He sends the other 3 scientists out so that he can secretly test his theory without the cameras noticing. He puts the ball on the platform, but secretly leaves a small object there as well, which is what he's really transferring. It works, but he is not very smooth and gets caught. Security personnel bring Ram to Ahmed, and Ahmed is stunned that in the process of creating a matter transfer machine, he has figured out time travel. Ram says that he cannot let someone like Ahmed have this, and Ahmed realizes that Ram knows about his terrorist connections. Ahmed assures Ram that he only wants to use this machine for good, like going back in time to save his parents, or the classic, going back in time to stop Hitler before he rises to power. Ram says that changing history could have catastrophic effects on their time continuum, but Ahmed argues that the benefits outweigh the risks. Ahmed has him tased and taken away to an abandoned warehouse. Next, Ahmed tries to get the other scientists to replicate Ram's results, but it is revealed that he encrypted all of his data, and they have no idea how to do what he did. Ahmed reaches out to Brandt and lies that Ram is trying to escape with the idea and data for his machine and sell it to someone else. Legally, Ram's work is his property. He orders Brandt to do whatever it takes to get the code to Ram's encryption. Amy, Simon, and Felix are trying to get in touch with Ram, but Ahmed meets them and lies that Ram's work has been taken over by the U.S. military and deemed classified, hence they cannot see him. He also says that until further notice, they are all to stay at this facility and hand over their cell phones. Brandt interrogates Ram with force, but Ahmed arrives and threatens to murder Ram's parents, so that the only way he can save them is by using the time machine. Brandt says that he didn't sign up for this, and Ahmed reminds him whom he works for. Ahmed says that he isn't really going to kill Ram's parents, and even if he did, they can use the time machine to bring them back. Ahmed orders Brandt to take the day off. Next, Ahmed demands the code from Ram, and when Ram doesn't comply, he kills both of his parents in front of him, devastating the young scientist. Meanwhile, Brandt once again expresses his frustrations at God for putting him in this situation. He says that he can't believe in God if God never shows himself or gives him any sign. Next, Ahmed tells Ram that if he doesn't comply, he will start torturing Amy, the love of his life. It turns out that blood is not thicker than getting laid because this convinces Ram to tell Ahmed everything. He says that he can't actually control time travel yet. There's still tons of data to process. Ahmed gives him 3 days to make the machine work, and Ram agrees, on the condition that he gets to go back and save his parents. Ahmed accepts. 3 days later, Ahmed arrives and orders Ram to run the machine with one of his men as a test subject. Ram says they'll have to wear a special device on their wrists to make sure their particles don't scatter. The test proves successful. While Ahmed celebrates, Ram tries to sneak into the machine, but Ahmed's men catch him. Ahmed reveals that he lied about letting Ram save his parents, and has Ram taken away. Ahmed asks Brandt if he's still mad at God, because if he is, then Ahmed has the perfect mission for him. It is revealed that Ahmed wants to send a team to kill Jesus. His men do not like this plan because Muslims believe Jesus to be a prophet of Allah, but Ahmed says that Christianity began because Jesus' disciples spread lies about his resurrection. His assassination mission will make sure that doesn't happen and bury Christianity in its crib. Meanwhile, Amy, Simon, and Felix break into the facility control room and see Brandt and his team traveling back in time. They discover that Ram is in the warehouse, unattended, and arrive to rescue him. Brandt and his team arrive in the past and start looking for Jesus. Once they find him and his disciples, they attack. The rest of the team deals with the disciples, but Brandt approaches Jesus himself. He says that if he's really the Son of God, he can stop these bullets. Jesus replies that he is allowing this. He has already died for their sins, so Brandt should do what he must. Angry, Brandt tells him that he is not giving his life. Brandt is taking it for him and shoots Jesus in the head. That is one hell of a bucket list item. Afterward, Brandt suddenly wonders how Jesus could speak English in this age. Next, Ram and the others see that Brandt and his team have returned from the past with a dead body. Ram notices that the time machine room is empty now, and they decide to sneak in, lock the room, and go back in time and fix this whole thing. As they are preparing, Ram points out that depending on whom Brandt killed in the past, in a few moments all of history could be rewritten, and they may even cease to exist. Felix points out that if that were to happen, it already would have. But Ram says that rewriting of the time continuum is not instantaneous. Depending on how far back Brandt's team went, it could take a while for it to catch up. They go back to where Brandt and his team went and discover that they killed Jesus. Ram realizes that when the time continuum finishes rewriting, all Christians will cease to exist. Fortunately, they came back 2,000 years, so it will take a while. Ram makes a plan that he and Amy will go back to the present and distract Ahmed and his men, and Felix and Simon will come back and activate a protocol that Ram programmed which takes the user to the death of his parents. If they stop that, this whole thing stops. Next, Ram and Amy arrive in the present, but realize that they have arrived an hour early, because Ram did not account for daylight savings, which started today. This means in this continuum, there are 2 Ram and Amys. Before guards arrive to kill them, Amy cleverly warns her present self about what's happening. Present. Amy, Felix, Simon, and Ram once again arrive in the lab and travel to the past. In the past, other Felix and Simon prepare to come to the present, but Simon's wrist device malfunctions, and he gets stuck. Felix arrives in the present and is captured by Ahmed, but just then, the continuum is rewritten, and an apocalyptic world emerges, with only Felix in it. The other versions of the 4 scientists arrive in the past and kill Brandt and his men before they materialize. But during the struggle, Brandt and Sabir escape, and Felix and Simon are shot and killed. Amy is shot by Brandt in the confusion, and Ram is devastated, but she convinces him to leave her and save Jesus. He chases after Sabir, and during the chase, Sabir's gun drops and is picked up by a local, from whom Ram later steals it. Next, the other Simon, who got stuck in this time, meets Jesus and warns him about Brandt and his men. However, Jesus says he already knows what will happen and goes back to his camp despite Simon's warning. Romans arrive to take Jesus and his disciples away. Realizing that this is how it's supposed to be, Ram tries to go back to the present to save a dying Amy, but learns that his and her wrist devices have been locked out by Ahmed. They are stuck here. Sabir meets Brandt, and they try to continue the Kill Jesus mission, but get caught by guards at a market after Sabir steals some food. Meanwhile, Simon finds Jesus carrying the cross and helps him. Ram brings Amy to the locals, hoping to find help, but they take him to Jesus, who is hung on the cross. Ram is shocked to see that on either side, Sabir and Brandt are being crucified as well. Brandt begs Jesus for forgiveness, and he forgives him. Ram is outraged that Jesus would forgive Brandt and demands that if he is truly God, he should heal Amy. Jesus says that the only way he can save Amy is by forgiving Brandt, but angered Ram says he will not forgive Brandt or Jesus. Next, as Ram is going through the city, he runs into Simon. Meanwhile, in the present, Ahmed sees the dead bodies that have come back and deduces what has been happening in the past. 3 days later, Amy says that she wants to see the resurrection, and Ram brings her to Jesus' tomb. Ahmed arrives to steal Jesus' body from the tomb, but the resurrection does in fact happen, and while Simon and Ram go to check the tomb, the resurrected Jesus comes to meet Amy. Amy asks why he is allowing all this to happen, and Jesus says that he has to save one soul. Simon and Ram return and find that Amy has passed away. Ram is devastated, but just then, 2 local women arrive and give them a wrist device which fell off Sabir's hand. Ram realizes that there are clearly greater forces at work here and comes up with a plan to save Amy. Ram and Simon return to the present and shoot the guards at the lab, but during the struggle, Simon is shot. Ram says that he is going to the moment that his parents were shot and putting an end to all this. At the last minute, guards arrive, but Ram manages to escape, and with his final breaths, Simon destroys the time machine, so Ram isn't followed. Ram arrives at the moment of his parents' death and prevents it. Ahmed runs away, and Ram chases after him. Ahmed radios Brandt and tells him to come to his office to protect him. Ram arrives in the office and finds Brandt at the end of his gun. He has a chance to kill Brandt and avenge Amy, but Brandt says that his family would be ashamed of what he is doing here and begs Ram to kill him so he can reunite with his daughters. Ram remembers Jesus' words about forgiving Brandt and decides to forgive him. Next, Ram's parents arrive, followed by Ahmed's thugs who have Amy. Ahmed emerges from behind a table, shoots Ram, and threatens to kill Ram's parents again. Ram suddenly hears a voice in his head telling him to be a hero, and Brandt realizes that that message is from his wife to him. He shoots all of Ahmed's guards, but Ahmed shoots him in the back, completely paralyzing him. Ram then stabs Ahmed in the back and then in the chest, finally killing him. As Ram lays dying in Amy's arms, he asks her to read the Bible to him, and as she reads Jesus' crucifixion, there is a mention of Simon helping him carry the cross. Ram realizes that the timelines are fixed, and suddenly he disappears as present Ram arrives. Next, Ram and the gang build a time machine in Ram's basement and go back and prevent the very accident that killed Brant's family. They leave a note for him, explaining that Ahmed is part of a terrorist organization and must be reported to the FBI. As Brant stands on the road with this warning, and having narrowly avoided death, he realizes God is looking out for him. His faith is renewed, and his soul is saved. The end. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.